I remember I was interviewing this girl from a very humble background, mother, father, both deaf and dumb. And she came into the interview room and she was so overwhelmed being at the office. It was like her dream office, and she just wanted to crack the interview.
So one of my mentor actually taught me this, like at some stage of your career, you are a doer. At some stage of your career, you are a delegator. And when you reach a senior level, you are an influencer. So today, like if I were to just start looking at doer, which is like an entry level or junior level person, up to a senior level person who is an influencer. So first, whenever I join an organization, I go with a clear mindset.
In Olympics, there is this sport called curling. I'm not sure if how many people follow that. It's not a very widely followed sport, but in curling, there is this rock that is, moving on an ice ring, and there are two people with a stick just clearing the way. And the further you can get the rock is the team that wins. We as managers are those people, moving the hockey all the time, clearing, or not the hockey, but the stick, which is clearing the way for the rock to go faster. And the rock is our team. And you consistently need to keep moving and cleaning the path so that your team can move as fast and as forward as you would want to be. And as long as you do that job very clearly,
leadership and talent management are the cornerstones of financial excellence. So today, I welcome you all to another engaging session of the CFO Story Mastermind Podcast. So our today's podcast is dedicated to exploring the intricacies of leadership and talent management in finance, and also providing actionable insights to empower organizational excellence and sustainable growth. So before we dive into this insightful session, I'm honored to welcome our moderator, Mr. Jogendra Singh. He's the President Finance with Hero Enterprises Limited. Along with him, we have a distinguished panel of experts to lead us through this exceptional discussion.
Thank you, Shreya, and hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you to this session on leadership and talent management in finance. In today's fast-paced and ever-evolving finance landscape, the importance of strong leadership and effective talent management cannot be overstated. Peter Drucker said that management is doing things right, but leadership is doing right things. So our goal today is to explore how we can do both, manage and lead our finance teams to achieve excellence. So first, let's talk about leadership. It's no longer about managing numbers and ensuring compliance. It's about leading change, driving strategy, and creating value. Leaders in finance must possess a blend of technical acumen, strategic vision, and ability to inspire and motivate their teams. Before you're a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. That's what Jack Welch said. So real job of the leaders is not being in charge, but about taking care of those in your charge. Unfortunately, people neither realize this nor are trained on this topic. By investing in the right leadership development and soft skills, we would empower our finance professionals to take initiative, drive strategic initiatives, inspire their teams. Coming to top talent and attracting top talent, the role of talent management in finance is equally critical. We used to say, Vidya dadati vinayam vinayat yati patratam patratvat dhanam apnoti dhanat dharma tatha sukham. That means with the talent, with Vidya comes humility. With humility, comes the ability to learn things, and with ability, you earn money, and when you earn money, you can do dharma. Dharma is, whatever you need to do, you would be able to do if you have that. So taking that forward, especially in today's context, the role of talent management in finance has become very critical. With the kind of changing dynamics in finance and in business, the technology, including artificial intelligence, automation, the skill sets required for finance professionals is continually changing. The World Economic Forum estimated that by 2025, 50% of all employees will need reskilling due to adoption of new technology. And this is something which we are seeing day in and day out. The second question is, once you have this talent, how do you retain the top talent? So retention is equally important. Losing top talent can be very, very costly and very, very disruptive. And we have seen that, this could be even about 50, 60% of the annual salary. And forget about annual salary, the kind of disruption can be very, very bad for the business per se. Another topic in terms of talent is succession planning. So how do you do succession planning is also a very critical component of talent management. Ensuring that you have a line of well-prepared leaders ready to step into the roles and key roles and shoes of the predecessors is very, very vital for business continuity and achieving long-term goals. Deloitte, had done some study and they said 14% of the companies believe that they do an excellent job, only 14% in succession planning. So it is very essential. How do you make your robust processes around talent retention and succession planning so that you identify the high potentials and prepare them for leadership positions in future? One more aspect when I talk about leadership and talent management is compensation, which is competitive compensation. So you have compensation at one point in time, which is very important. The other thing is really leading them in a way with empathy and creating leaders out of them. So as I said in the very, very beginning, the job of leader is not to have followers, but to create leaders in a way. So with this background, I would, come to my panel, which is a very, very good panel that I have. And Anupama, I'll just start with you. So when you talk about attracting the top financial talent, what strategies do you use to attract top financial talent for your organization?
Finance should not be separated from the entire organization. So what we do to attract talent for the entire organization would also be the building block for finance. And then we can have some more blocks particularly for finance. So what is the base for attracting talent for any organization? It is the brand of that organization that attracts talent. And how do we build this brand? It is when any organization promises to deliver something and delivers it time and again when it comes to its products and services. And people are able to see sustained earnings and growth. Plus, they are fulfilling their promise to their customers, promise to the community or society. You will see sustainability and CSR is no longer a word sitting on the side, but very much integrated within organizations. So then, when you perceive an organization from outside, you start getting that comfort that yes, they also would be fulfilling promise to their co-workers. And those promises are in terms of conduct of the organization. There are certain organizations which have a higher purpose. They are driven by ethics. Then the culture of the organization, and what you were talking about, the compensation or benefits of the organization. So this is a package which attracts people, and then on top of that, we can talk about finance. But before we move to finance, there are 4 organizations I have worked with, and each of them would fit into this bill. So when I talk about Tata Steel, I started my career with, and when you hear the tagline, value stronger than steel, you immensely, you can connect with that organization deeply. When you're talking about value stronger than steel, how strong it would be, a very ethical organization. When I was working with PepsiCo, I was overwhelmed by their steps and initiatives which the organization was taking at a global level to move from just fizzy drinks to better drinks, health drinks, improved treats in terms of snacks, Quaker got merged into its portfolio. So a lot of change in portfolio, and we could see that that yes, there is more to come. This is an organization which is which is talking about change, also about its sustainability initiatives. So zero water initiative and many other initiatives. Then when I came into Ikea, it was very much about a flat organization. And it is, when we talk about values at Ikea, cost consciousness is not just in the products that we see, it is inbuilt into everything the organization does. So from the founder of the company, Ingvar Kamprad, who would travel economy class, to the country managing directors, to an intern, everyone would fly the same economy class across the company. So when you talk about cost consciousness and equality, then you are living it every day. That is how you're making it possible to make the goods affordable for the many people across the world. Coming to ONDC, when you talk about building digital public infrastructure for the company at that scale, it attracts people sitting outside that yes, there is a movement, something big is going to happen, I can bring about a change in the country. So when you set this as the foundation, as the building block for an organization, and you get talent in, so for this finance talent to be able to associate with what is happening in the organization in terms of business is very key, because time and again what finance has been associated with is very mundane and routine tasks. Is there a possibility to connect with what the organization is doing and delivering to what I am doing? If I am able to connect and relate that yes, my contribution is translating to the top line and the bottom line of the company.
We said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So giving that purpose-driven culture is something that would definitely attract top talent. And of course, there are other building blocks of compensation and sustainability and things like that. So which is absolutely good. Shreyas, I come to you. Can you share an example of a leadership challenge you faced in your career and how you overcame it?
Maybe I'll use this opportunity to generalize a problem that we face, especially when we step into new organizations. And this I faced multiple times. And the choice is to keep the existing team or bring in new blood or do a mix of the two. The challenge is, what is the right strategy? And I'm a strong believer that just because you are changed in the organization, it is not the fault of the existing team and that they need to be changed to bring in people who are aligned to you. I think the people existing also have contributed to the growth of the organization. And we need to learn to differentiate between competence and incompetence, not between old and young or current and new or aligned and not aligned. I think a good leader always ensures that most of the team is aligned to him or learns to work with the rest, if it is not possible. But I think this is a challenge that all of us need to consciously overcome, that the easiest way is to, have some existing people moved out and bring in people who are aligned to you from the past in. Of course, change when there is a need for change, for example, but ensure that you take good care of the people. That's what Jogendra, you said, that is a sign of a good leader. There's one gentleman who grew up being a controller with the company, and he's from the region and has always had this role. And he was not fitting into the growth phase that the company was, but he said, look, he's been with this company for 30 years. Now, for the last 3 years of his career, I will not push him out. I will find something for him to do, and he will also keep his position, Things like this I found is extremely fantastic in a cultural fit point, and I'd probably keep this, I'll take this to my grave in the sense that I'll ensure that we do this to our people as far as possible.
Yeah, Shreyas, I think this is very, very important. And, in my experience of 30 years plus, I have seen this kind of behavior many times whenever there is a change in leadership, especially, that there is new versus old, aligned versus non-aligned. These kind of things come up. and we have to sit down and tell guys, you can't really, clean up the old people and bring your own people. In any case, strategically, it's not a very good idea. So it's very important for us to understand, as you said, competence based, and even in that, there are roles that we can find if we find that
Exactly.
something is not fitting in. So that's absolutely horses for the courses. Is a very old adage, and we will have to adhere to that. But empathy is surely very, very important, aspect of this. Dhaval, I come to you. How do you create a work environment that keeps finance professionals engaged and motivated over the long term?
Thanks, Jugendra. It's a really interesting question. This has changed a lot over the last 2 decades on what you do, because as Gen Zs came in, from millennials to Gen Zs, life has changed a lot in terms of how you create an engaging environment for your people. I think what has really worked for me back in the days, which I learned from GE, I started my career with GE, and at that time, GE was considered this leadership factory of the world. If you ask any GE, what do you do? They will mention their business later. The first thing they will say is that we manufacture leaders. So they were very proud in terms of the culture they created and the training they imparted in terms of the environment around their people. I think the few things that I took very passionately and learned from my mentors from those days itself, one of them was, how do you keep your environment full of learning and curiosity? How do you make sure that nobody feels stupid when they have to ask a question that is rather silly in a meeting? How do you create an environment where there is no fear of failure? I mean, to say that there is no fear of failure is a bit exaggeration, but there is that trust that even if you fail, you're able to express it and get past it as a learning experience rather than being penalized it for a long term. I think that was very, very important to build in an environment which is constantly engaging and motivating. And the last, but one of the most important thing that I have learned, beyond G from my days at Sun King and building a startup basically, was that you have to be a very effective problem solver as a leader for your team to feel motivated. I compare this with, in Olympics, there is this sport called curling. I'm not sure if how many people follow that. It's not a very widely followed sport, but in curling, there is this rock that is, moving on an ice ring, and there are two people with a stick just clearing the way. And the further you can get the rock is the team that wins. We as managers are those people, moving the hockey all the time, clearing, or not the hockey, but the stick, which is clearing the way for the rock to go faster. And the rock is our team. And you consistently need to keep moving and cleaning the path so that your team can move as fast and as forward as you would want to be. And as long as you do that job very clearly, the team automatically figures out itself and they look good, they feel good, they find their way and their mojo to work around in that environment and build a culture where people help each other out and grow together rather than grow against each other. So that's some of the learnings that I've had starting with GE and then following up in the startup that we built over a period of time.
Yeah, Dhaval, you brought out very good points, about being a problem solver. I think it's very important, when you talk about retaining the top talent, you'll have to give them enough challenges and give them their space and be away from micromanaging.
Yeah.
Give them, just let's look at their style of, just give them support, facilitate them, but don't micromanage them. I think that goes a long way in retaining the talent. Absolutely. Anupama, I just come back to you. So what initiatives have you implemented to retain top talent in your finance department?
So much has already been spoken about. I will not repeat, while empathy and open culture and removing the roadblocks, these are essentials. I will pick up a few examples from the organization where I spent 14 years and what I learned when it comes to retaining talent there. So I was with Ikea for 14 years, and it's a global company with presence across many countries across the globe. I've been working with sourcing and primarily in South Asia region, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, which were quite similar, but very different from an America or a China. And in Europe, each country is so different when it comes to laws, regulations, and how they operate, what businesses they excel in. And working with an organization which was global, I always got my team to work on global projects. I myself took initiatives to work on global projects and got the team also to work on global projects. It did two things. One is when you are interacting with people across geographies, you learn about the country, the people, the culture. You develop a different kind of outlook towards business, the world, and how you deal with situations. And the second is you also learn a lot about business because each country is so different when it comes to their regulations, compliances, demands, what is the ease of doing business, the different businesses they would specialize in. Because I was working with sourcing. So one country would lead in wood manufacturing, the other in textiles, the third maybe in metals. So when you're working with your counterparts in finance in different parts of the world, then you get a glimpse into their reality, what kind of industry, you learn a lot from them. And this doesn't allows people to just get bored doing everyday work. This exposes them to a lot of new opportunities, a lot of new insights. So you are learning and you're also growing at the same time. This is what I have been doing as for many years. I have also grown and my team has also grown.
Yeah, absolutely. If you keep learning and keep growing, that's the way, you stay, with the same organization. And I think that's the key to remain for a long term. Ganesh sir, I come to you on a very important question of succession planning. So can you share your approach on succession planning within the finance function?
Yeah. So one of my mentor actually taught me this, like at some stage of your career, you are a doer. At some stage of your career, you are a delegator. And when you reach a senior level, you are an influencer. So today, like if I were to just start looking at doer, which is like an entry level or junior level person, up to a senior level person who is an influencer. So first, whenever I join an organization, I go with a clear mindset that I am indisposable. At some stage, I will have to actually move out. So you should always have a clear thought that somebody will actually take over your position. I think that's the number one rule. And I have been sincerely following this in every one of this organization. The first thing I try to do is maybe spot the talent. I think 2 out of 3 times I was pretty lucky in getting a good, competent staff. I think today that's one of the big challenge. And I look out for certain specific domain experience, and I look out for how the person can go beyond his domain experience and look at certain other aspects. To me, that is my first step. Second, once the person actually starts learning the job, I delegate a lot. Like I don't peep through the neck. In fact, I allow the guy to give his space, allow him to work, and at an appropriate time, see that you actually take him, make him visible to the senior management and sometimes even to the board of directors. I have done it in the past couple of times, and this particular young talent became probably the blue-eyed boy of the company, I think. And I almost completely moved away. Like I used to give a task and completely allow them to do it. Sometimes I also tell them that the way I delegate, at some stage, they should actually start delegating to the next generation. Otherwise, it gets stuck at a particular stage. And whenever there is a committee or within the organization, how an increment or a promotion is made, a lot of anchoring happens. I think sometimes a well-deserving candidate may not get the support and somebody else gets anchored. And this is where at least I had a lot of tough times in terms of fighting for somebody who can, whose capability we need to actually bring it out. I think this is something which there are 1 or 2 good examples. The last one, I was talking about multiple functions getting reported to me. For each one of the functions, I was able to, I think over a period of 7 or 8 years, I was able to create a successor. In fact, everybody were much more competent than me. I think I would honestly admit most of them were more competent than me. And when I left, the company didn't even suffer for a day. And in fact, this was a compliment I was given on the last day, that no other function had this sort of a smooth succession. But if you were to look at a senior level, like if somebody has to move away from a CFO, I think Indian corporates do not actually create that sort of a second line who could actually take over as a CFO. You necessarily have to go out in the market. I think this is something, it's an open-ended question. Like, I don't know when Indian industry would actually start looking at a succession planning more seriously at a senior level. Junior level or middle level, I don't see that challenge at this stage now.
I think that's a very, very good point. It is the responsibility of, the leaders to create their succession. They have to pass on the baton at some point in time. So why not prepare the people to take that baton successfully? If it can happen in sports, it can happen in corporate world as well. And it's our benign duty, in my view. So Shreyas, I come to you on extend this question on succession planning itself. So how do you prepare high potential employees for leadership roles to ensure a smooth transition when key positions become vacant?
I think the first step to that, a very interesting problem, but all of us face this. I think the first step to that is to take a step back and create an atmosphere where everybody has a fair chance at being high potential. So a non-political environment, a chance where everybody gets an equal opportunity to grow, to showcase their capabilities. I think that's the first step that builds trust among the employees to ensure that they are also capable of taking the next step and growing into the succession planning. And I mean, apart from, I think in my case, for a few years and few organizations already, and Dhaval and I have had the pleasure of working together as well, and having had a good 6 months of handover as a predecessor and successor, even in Zeiss. But prior to that, all the finance managers or heads of finances who reported to me have taken over my roles, whether in Stanley Black & Decker or Rajesh Mittal used to report to me, or Karcher, Rahul Kejriwal used to report to me. So they have all taken over and I'm really proud that we have managed to bring this about. And it is our duty to ensure that the grooming is happening when once we identify a key talent. I think that's the first step there. Once we have given an equal platform, we identify the talent and we earmark them for growth. If needed, let's say leadership training sessions or other educational platforms, I think we have CFO courses available at IIMs now, if you need to train, for example, at senior leadership levels. So there are enough opportunities to even formally groom the next gen to bigger leadership roles. And of course, continuing monitoring them. And I think I was fortunate enough at 27, my ex-boss at GE, and I'm from GE as Dhaval is, threw me into the deep end. He said, I'm leaving here, you take over as a CFO. So that was how my first role happened. And I was suddenly in the middle of everything. So whether I was prepared for it, I don't know. But having learned from this, I think we should always ensure that at some point of time, we push our eligible candidates into the deep end as well and say, why don't you swim here and show us? So put them on difficult projects, maybe even with difficult people, where we see how they interact, how they exchange ideas, and how they actually learn to work with people whom they're not most friendly with. So cross-functional teams, cross-hierarchical teams, where they are working with leaders from other departments, other functions, and so on. So I think it's very important, one, to give a good platform, second, to groom them, identify and groom them, and third is to test them before you actually push them into the role so that they are taken over. And unless we do this, we'll continue to lose good people. So that is also a given. So I think that's very important. Like Jogendra, you said that we are not stuck to our places. And the moment we feel insecure in growing our teams, I think our growth has stopped us as well. Because I think we grow and we learn as as we grow our team and groom our team, because they will give us the excess bandwidth where we can learn more and we can take over more challenges, more newer tasks, and so on. So that is how I try to deal with this situation.
Yes, yes, I think that's very important. And I always feel, that the perfectionism is a mirage. So you never, have anybody who's 100% ready for anything. So even in my view, even if you are 70% ready, I think it's good to throw you into the pool, and rest of it, you will learn on the job. Why not? So that's a very good way of preparing the next gen for the new role. So Dhaval, while we're talking about this, so what key qualities do you believe in are essential for effective leadership in finance? Particularly, I want you to really delve on the topic. How have these changed in the digital era?
Great question, Jogendra. I would say first is like the base of any finance leader. What do you essentially look for in any finance leader, regardless of the era you're in? So these are called the hygiene factors, in my opinion. So you look for somebody who is purpose-driven, who is values-driven. The ethical, the integrity part of it, the clarity around what is right, what is not acceptable enough is very important for a finance leader. Because we are essentially the guardian for the company in some ways. So we have a very important responsibility to ensure that we have this ethical barometer in front of us and principled barometer in front of us in everything we do. So I think that's just the hygiene factor. Then comes the subject matter expertise. I believe you do need some amount of subject matter expertise, and these things haven't changed over time. You must have certain amount of depth in understanding the financials and some technical areas as well. But that's essentially standard since the day, India got independence. Nothing has changed since then. On top of this, what has really changed in the last decade or so, and I've observed this very closely, is that the volatility, of course, has increased. The regulatory environment, any environment you are in Indian scenario, there's too much changes that keep happening. So one thing that the one quality that each finance leader must develop is to be comfortable being uncomfortable all the time. You are getting into business models you have never done before. You're part of disruptive things that you have never seen before. And it's very hard for certain finance. I mean, I don't know why it is, but sometimes it is hard for finance to go into areas that are uncertain. Call it a job hazard. But I think we have gotten better at it over time. And I think it is a very strong skill that differentiates the finance leader of the digital era versus the non-digital era, is this ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable all the time. You're always doing with something that you don't want to do, but you need to do because that's the business need. That's where the business is going. That's where the regulatory environment is taking you. That's where the government wants you to be. Somebody or the other force is taking you in a direction where there is a lot of uncertainty, and you have to be just comfortable with it and figure out how to get things done. So I think that's a really key, that's a skill set that I've seen evolve and becoming extremely important for finance leadership. The second one that I think is extremely important is the ability to figure it out. As simple as that. I don't have many more words to express it. How effectively can you figure things out? Because not everything is written in finance literature anymore. It's outdated. Yeah, the business models have far gone ahead. Gen AI, ChatGPT, who knew about what it's going to do to us in 2 years ago? But now you're supposed to put a governance model around how you're supposed to use ChatGPT in your organization and sign off on it, right? And you don't even know how it actually works and how many ways it can impact you. So just figure it out. You just have to figure it out. There's no better word for it. And the faster you get into this habit of figuring new things out, the more effective a leader you become for your organization. And finally, the thing is about customer centricity. I know this is a very consistent common denominator across not just finance, every function in the organization. You have to be customer centric. But I think for finance specifically, it is changing in the sense that you really have to come at the forefront. You are sitting at the negotiation tables with the customer more often than you've ever done before. You're sitting at potential deal closures more than at more than it has ever been done before, just because of the transparency and the layers being reduced and digital era coming into picture and so on and so forth. So a lot of times you're driving initiatives that directly impact customers in more ways than one. And now the finance leadership is expected to drive it more than ever before. So I think these are the three things that I believe have very specifically changed in the digital era. One is your, being ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and second is to figure it out, and the third is just how well aligned you are in understanding your customers' need. I think those are the three differentiating factors, in my opinion.
Yes, Dhaval, I really like the structure. I always say, fall in love with the problem. So, that could be a good trait. And your, analogy of being uncomfortable, you'll have to bring in this digital world a lot of agility, a lot of speed, a lot of, making a complex problem into a simple solution. We always say, problems are complex, solutions are simple, right? So in this VUCA world or a Bani world, whatever coining we have done so far, it's important to really keep the focus and keep the purpose in mind and work on that. So that's wonderful. Anupam, I come back to you. There is another very important concept is mentorship in leadership development. So what role does mentorship play in talent development, and how can we effectively implement it?
There's a very thin line between coaching and mentoring. And it is very important to understand the nuances of mentoring. And mentoring is a lot about identifying the talent and then growing it. There is so much talent sitting around us, but those people don't know how to grow. And how do you spot that talent and make it grow? Mentoring them, basically letting them go through the pupa stage, but being there to support and not really hindering their evolution, I would say, during that process. We were talking about learning on the job. One thing which I have seen in the finance function for long is that we have a lot of CAs coming into the workforce who don't go to proper colleges. So, as an adult, they have not really had much interaction with the outside world. So, when they come into work, they are very good at written communication, but they are not so good at communicating what they want to say, how to bring in the stakeholders together. So here, mentoring these people who have a lot of knowledge, good intent to work, hard workers, to bring up their communication skills, to move them from this level to this level, so that they can bring about a change in how they are operating. Otherwise, they will continue to do the bookkeeping, accounting all their life. So, how to grow them from these kind of roles into business, finance, and leadership roles? Here, I think we as finance leaders can contribute a lot. Now a lot of CAs have started going to college and then have gone into CAs, so they have had some interactions during the college period. So things are changing, but still not everything has changed. I still remember some 8, 10 years back, there was a young girl in our team who would do accounting entries. She could not clear her CA exam, but she was very good at communication. She kept trying for 4 years, she could still not clear it. But her communication was so good that we started developing on her communication, and then she went on to lead the communications team in Europe. So for one country, she left finance and went on to lead communications. Another example, I remember I was interviewing this girl from a very humble background, mother, father, both deaf and dumb. And she came into the interview room and she was so overwhelmed being at the office. It was like her dream office, and she just wanted to crack the interview. But she got anxious, nervous. She started crying, howling after 5 minutes. I thought maybe I have done something wrong. But giving her time and space to overcome that, and then we started talking after 15, 20 minutes. I did not ask her anything, but just her desire to do so much, to achieve so much, struck with me, and I selected her, groomed her, and now she's doing a global role in business controlling. So this is how we recognize talent, grow the talent, and it just you just observe. And when you observe, you want to make a difference. Like you were saying that you have created successors who are much more brighter and competent than you are. Many of you have said so. So mentoring is all about that.
Yes, absolutely. These are like a rough diamond which you're polishing and making them into a finished ones. And you talked about, turning pupa into, so that's, the metamorphosis, we all go through, and especially these youngsters, go through. And we have to really lead, so mentorship especially plays a very, very important role on that. Ganesh, I can come back to you. In terms of aligning with the business strategy, so what measures do you take to ensure that finance professionals understand and contribute to strategic objectives of the company?
I will actually split it into two parts. One is your annual operating plan. So this is fairly simple because each business actually has a particular target. You try to connect with those targets with your own functional KPIs. Many times your functional KPIs may not actually get connected with what the business wants, but still there are in the past, I'm talking of two decades back, we had topics like equipment financing, or you talk about hedging for Latin American countries, or channel finance. So there are multiple initiatives where the business wanted to do, you just pick it up and start making your own KPIs. But if your key question is more on strategic initiatives, how do we actually teach them? I will actually go back to Anupama's point, especially the chartered accountants who come out of, who get into the organization. I don't know to what extent they have that understanding of a strategy. Okay, unfortunately, whatever strategy document that today the companies prepare, these are all short-lived. I can give a number of examples where people come with a fancy strategy document. After exactly 30 months later, it goes out of the window and something new comes up. So one challenge I always faced is how do you actually go sell a strategic initiative that this is going to be there for the next 5 years or 7 years, which at least I didn't see that in many companies where maybe I won't blame the company. Maybe I'll just give a very maybe an irrelevant example. When we do an enterprise risk management, we had almost few hundred risks, operational risk, which is like a laundry list. You talk about each and everything. Never once we came out with something equivalent of a COVID. I think the whole world was locked and nobody has actually predicted a COVID. Maybe if I look at my business, they run through so much of uncertainties, volatilities, so they need to keep changing the strategy every now and then. And when you actually talk to your finance team, maybe I can pick up few strategic initiatives and start maybe making them part of it, how you should actually be a business partner and start working, facilitate the business to actually achieve the strategic initiative. But in terms of the typical textbook approach, I'm yet to come across and see an example. So on the sidelines, what I do is I have a very short presentation on strategy with some 20, 30 models. We try to teach or interact with some of the team members, what they think about each. There are multiple models. You can actually pick and choose. You can see from the books behind. All you need to do is copy some good ones. And I'm a big fan of a balanced scorecard. Even tomorrow, anything, I try to visualize a scorecard and try to see how the linkage is. And even if I don't have a KPI, it gives me a very good picture where the business is, where are the challenges, or what is the strength they have. I use it completely for a different purpose, but I'm trying to teach my team, look, how you can also use something like this. And when somebody starts talking about it, you know how to link things. So this is not a very structured way. To answer your question, AOPs, we are reasonably on target, but medium to long term, I think it's a business risk. So as you keep going, you just involve the team on some of these initiatives.
Yeah, I think that's. But you're saying that how do you really understand the overall strategic objectives or creating sometimes I really say talking about business plans and all that and I always say that if you think finance does not have a storyline or is not interesting, you should try to see a business plan after 3 years. What did you make and what it is today? And in that story, you will have tragedy, you will have comedy, you will have drama, all elements, all in one. So, uh, yeah, but I think it's very important for us to ensure that our people understand what is the overall purpose and objective
Big picture, yeah.
of the company, and their actions have to be targeted towards that. So I think that's important. Shreyas, I come to you on compensation. So, what role does compensation play in attracting and retaining top financial talent? And how do you ensure that the packages remain competitive? So let's see, something to learn from you also. I'm looking forward to your answer on this.
Well, I'll follow your footsteps by making some quotes. The most popular one being when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So I think any competent person who fits well into his job and who can really do well for his job, I think will expect to be compensated also for it. But another statement that is also true is that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. So that already also contradicts this statement saying, is payment and compensation all, or are there also many other factors? I think Anupama very well mentioned about culture. We mentioned about the big picture. She also spoke about being part of Tata, right? I still rue today because my first offer was in TAS in Tata Steel, and I didn't take it up. I chose KPMG over it. So, I mean, jokes apart, I think a lot of factors come together, and of course, payment and salaries and compensations are a very, very important part of it. I think when we are a good organization and we have good teams, we should ensure that they are adequately compensated. So, but not necessarily that we have to strive to be the best in the market, because at the end, even as finance personnel, we realize that we have a budget. The company has a growth trajectory. So we see the other side of it as well when we look at our own pockets also. But I think we should find a good balance between the two. But very importantly, we should take care of all the other aspects of being good managers or good leaders for our teams, creating a good culture in which the team exists, and ensuring that the company itself helps the employee grow. Dhaval mentioned that GE is a leadership churner globally, right? So when you're working in an organization like GE, like Tata, like HUL, for example, you know that when you get out, you will step onto a much larger platform. And I think those are also factors that people take into consideration. And while compensation is very important, while we also need to ensure that we take care of the inflation in the country, we are a high inflation country, and ensure that there is growth beyond that, it is not the only thing that I would say is a decision-making factor when it comes to employees. A lot of other factors also play on their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. In that sense, that compensation is important. For a very, very important factor. Though it may not be the only factor, but it's a very strong factor. Today. So Dhaval, this question I asked Ganesh sir also, but maybe I'll just repeat. Again coming back on business strategy. So how do you really see your team KPIs, objectives, etc., are actually in line with the overall organizational goals?
First as that, just to end on the thought about the question that you asked, Shreyas, I think on that, on the how do you retain the talent? I think one of the points that is getting increasingly important beyond everything that Shreyas rightfully highlighted is mental peace. Some people feel very comfortable in culture. So the toxicity in a culture, how mentally you feel healthy in an organization is starting to become an increasingly important part of your overall retaining strategy. So that's just one point I wanted to highlight on the last question. But coming to your question about, how do you align people to the organizational strategy? I would say, the first thing is to actually have the right team, which is aligned with the strategy. People part of it is extremely important and highly underrated in getting the strategy right. Once you get a business document that says, here are our growth goals for the next year, our growth strategy, the natural reaction is to start aligning the existing team to those initiatives or to those businesses and so on and so forth. But the first question, I think, which is very important to ask is that, do I even have the right people that are aligned in terms of skill set, in terms of the initiatives that we want to see in the next 5 years? And if not, those changes needs to be made first. It's the hardest thing to do, but the sooner we do it, the better the rest of the things follow. So first is to have the right skill set, the right team members, and the right mix of people. Once you have that aligned, then it's about processes and systems. So setting up the right processes with the right people just becomes exponentially easier, quite frankly, and systems just play a good role. The way to drive this, the one that has worked very effectively for me, and I learned this again from my G days, was a three-pronged approach. One is to communicate to your people what needs to be done very clearly. And that comes really right out of your business playbook or your strategy, whatever that is. The second, which is a slightly tougher part, and which is where your job as a leader gets tested, is to show them how to get there, which means you should be able to show, even if those goals, whether they're astronomical or achievable or whatever, how do we as a team intend to get there, some rough roadmap and guidance throughout the way. That is the job of the leader. And the third and the most important factor, where a lot of people struggle to do a really good job, is to very clearly and categorically communicate to the team of what's in it for them if they actually get there. What is in it for any individual in achieving a business goal? It's like a lot of people would think in an organization that I'm here for 5 years, whichever way you look at it. So why should I kill myself for a business goal? Why should I believe in that vision? So it's very important to really communicate, whether it's money or it's financial rewards, whether it's professional rewards, whether it's growth, whether it's development, whatever it is. It is the job of the leader to make sure that he or she communicates that clearly, that where do we need to go, how are we going to get there, and what is in it for you as an individual if you actually get there. And that's where you get even tested, because not everybody gets, the motivators are different for different people. Some people look at money, some people look at something else. So a leader has to do that internal reflection to understand each of his or her team members, to see, what will move a certain individual's molecules to motivate them to be aligned to a certain vision that you have. And to do that is essentially the test of your leadership effectiveness. And if you do that well, and if you can communicate what's in it for them, then I think the job becomes a lot more smoother. So having the right people and answering these three questions is something that has worked very well for me in the past.
Good. I think, that's a wonderful thing. So let's say now to just wrap it up, I'd like, each of you to just give top 2 challenges that you foresee. Only 2 challenges, no elaboration, please. I start with you, Anupama.
So the Gen Z, how to capture their attention span and therefore the retention span.
Okay, good. Ganesh sir.
Be ready for a tougher regulatory regime and adapt to technology ASAP.
Oh, good. Shreyas.
My top 2 would be upskilling the people, specifically with the digitization initiatives taking over. And the second would be also to remove the fear of losing job from the changes coming in. I think both of these challenges are critical.
Absolutely. Bhaval.
I believe I was just about to say upskilling. I think Shreyas nailed it, because I firmly believe that 50% of the finance job will not stay the way it is in 5 years in this same form. So how do you upskill your teams and make them ready for future is the biggest challenge, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for a wonderful discussion that we had on the topic of leadership and talent management in finance, which is a very, very crucial topic for fostering a culture of excellence and continuous improvement for us. Thank you.